She was everything he wanted, and he destroyed it in 4 months. Not because he didn't love her. He did, more than he'd loved anything. But somewhere between the first date and the 4th month, he started checking her phone. He started needing to know where she was at all times. He started picking fights at 11 p.m. over things that happened at noon. And when she finally left, he said the same thing he said about the last one. I always attract the wrong people. He was wrong. He attracted exactly the right mirror. He just didn't want to look at what it was showing him. This video is about the most uncomfortable truth in love, one that a 13th century poet and a 2,400-year-old philosopher both arrived at independently across centuries and continents. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And by the end of this, you will either feel relieved or exposed, probably both. Let's start with a question you're not going to like. Think about the last person who hurt you, not what they did. Go underneath that. Ask yourself, what was I afraid of before I even met them? Were you afraid of being alone? Then you probably stayed longer than you should have, tolerated things you knew were wrong, gave pieces of yourself away just to keep someone in the room. Were you afraid of not being enough? Then you probably performed. Became the version of yourself you thought they wanted. Edited your personality in real time until you couldn't remember which parts were real. Were you afraid of being truly seen? Then you probably chose someone who never really tried to see you. Someone emotionally unavailable. Someone who kept just enough distance that your walls never had to come down. The person didn't cause the wound. The person found it and sat right on top of it. That's not bad luck. That's a signal. Over 800 years ago, a Persian poet named Rumi wrote something that most people today paste on Instagram without ever understanding what it actually means. He said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." The first time most people hear that, they think it's beautiful, poetic. Maybe they save it for later. But sit with it for a minute, and it starts to burn. Because Rumi is not telling you to go find someone. He's not saying the right person is out there if you just keep looking. He's saying the problem is not the absence of love. The problem is you. The walls you built. The armor you put on so long ago that you forgot you're wearing it. The version of yourself you show the world that was designed to protect you from the very thing you say you want most. You say you want deep connection, but you keep yourself shallow because depth requires vulnerability. And vulnerability means someone could see the parts of you that you've decided are unlovable. You say you want honesty, but you edit yourself constantly. You laugh when you're not amused. You say you're fine when you're falling apart. You perform being okay because the real you might not be enough. You say you want someone who sees you, but you've been hiding for so long, you don't even know what there is to see anymore. Rumi understood something most modern therapy takes months to arrive at. Love is not something you find, it's something you allow by removing what's in the way, and what's in the way is almost always fear. Now here's where it gets deeper. About 2,400 years before Rumi, a man named Plato sat in Athens and told one of the strangest love stories ever written. It's inside a text called the Symposium. A group of men at a dinner party each take turns giving a speech about what love actually is. And one of them, the playwright Aristophanes, says something that still haunts people to this day. He says that in the beginning humans weren't like they are now. They were whole, complete, powerful. Each person had 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 faces. They were so strong they threatened the gods. So Zeus, terrified of their power, split them in half. And from that moment on, every human being has wandered the earth with an ache they can't name, looking for the other half that was ripped away from them. That longing you feel late at night. That sense that something is missing even when everything looks fine from the outside. That is the ancient wound. Most people hear this and think, beautiful. I need to find my other half, my soulmate, the person who completes me. And that is exactly the wrong lesson. Because think about what actually happens when 2 incomplete people find each other. You don't get love, you get dependency. 2 people clinging to each other because being alone with the wound is too painful. 2 people using each other as painkillers and calling it romance. I need you, can't live without you, you complete me. Those aren't love songs, those are distress signals. And the relationship built on distress signals always follows the same pattern. At first it's intoxicating. Someone finally fills the void. The ache goes quiet. You feel whole for the first time in years. Then slowly the grip tightens. Because if this person is responsible for making you feel whole, then losing them means returning to the wound. So you hold on tighter. You sacrifice parts of yourself to keep them. You tolerate things you shouldn't, because the alternative is being half a person again. And when it eventually ends, and it always does in this form, you don't just lose a relationship, you lose the only thing that was holding you together. That is not heartbreak, that is withdrawal. Now go back to the man at the beginning of this video, the one who destroyed his relationship in 4 months. He wasn't possessive because he was a bad person. He was possessive because somewhere inside him lived a terrified boy who believed that love always leaves. So he gripped, controlled, monitored, not out of cruelty, out of panic. And what did he attract? A woman who eventually confirmed his deepest fear. She left, just like he always knew she would. He didn't attract the wrong person. He attracted a mirror. This is the part that hurts. If you are desperate, you attract someone who feeds on desperation. If you are insecure, you attract someone who exploits insecurity. If you are afraid of being alone, you attract someone who knows you'll tolerate anything to avoid solitude. Not because the universe is cruel, but because you are broadcasting a signal constantly in how you speak, how you carry yourself, what you accept, what you ignore. And the signal you send determines who responds. So what do you actually do with this? The ancient Greeks had something most modern people have forgotten. They didn't have one word for love. They had many. Eros, passionate desire, the fire, the thing that makes you forget your own name, beautiful but dangerous, because Eros without foundation burns fast and leaves ash. Philia, deep friendship, 2 people who see each other clearly and choose each other anyway. Most people skip this because it doesn't feel dramatic enough, but it is the love that actually lasts. Storge, familiar love, the comfort of someone who has seen your worst and didn't leave. Agape, unconditional love, love that gives without keeping score. And then the one almost nobody talks about, Philautia, self-love. The Greeks put self-love on the same list as romantic love for a reason. They understood something that Instagram quotes about self-love completely miss. You cannot give what you do not have. If you do not love yourself, truly, not as a slogan, but in your bones, then your love for someone else is not a gift. It is a transaction. I will love you so that you love me back. I will give so that I can receive. I will be what you need so that you don't leave and force me to sit with myself again. That is not love. That is a contract. And contracts break the moment one side stops delivering. Rumi spent years looking for meaning outside himself, in teachers, in books, in religion, and then he met a man named Shams of Tabriz. Shams didn't give him answers. He didn't complete Rumi. He gave Rumi a mirror, and in that mirror, Rumi saw that everything he had been looking for externally was already inside him, buried under years of walls and armor and fear. That's when the poetry began. Not from finding love, from finding himself. Plato's characters in the Symposium spend an entire night debating what love is, and the conclusion is not a definition, it's a realization. Love is not the possession of another person. Love is the pursuit of wholeness. And wholeness starts with you. Remember the man from the beginning, the one who always attracts the wrong people. What if he stopped swiping, stopped searching, stopped trying to fill the wound with another person, and instead sat with the wound long enough to understand where it came from? What if he looked at the fear underneath the possessiveness and asked, "Who taught me that love always leaves?" What if he traced that belief back to its origin and realized it was never his truth? It was someone else's, given to him before he was old enough to reject it. That is the work, not finding the right person, becoming someone who doesn't need the right person to feel whole, so that when the right person does show up, it's not two halves clinging, it's two whole people choosing each other. The right person doesn't complete you. The right person meets you, whole to whole, full to full. Two people who don't need each other, but choose each other every day. That is the love worth waiting for. And it starts the day you stop looking for someone to save you and decide to save yourself. Rumi told you, your task is not to seek for love. Plato showed you, the wound is not healed by finding the other half. The wound is healed when you stop being half. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So become something you'd fall in love with. This is Philautia. We will see you in the next one.